Let's say I wanted to graph the function f of x is equal to sine of x. Okay, so the x-axis would be our angle theta, and our y-axis would be sine of theta. So to begin with, we know that the highest value of the sine function according to the unit circle is 1, and the lowest value is -1. So let's just label that on our y-axis. And now I'm going to choose the corner points to graph because they're the easiest ones, the whole numbers. So at 0, sine is 0, pi over 2, sine becomes 1. At pi it becomes 0 again. At 3 pi over 2 it becomes -1. And at 2 pi it becomes 0. So this is our sine function. And what we've graphed just now is a period of the sine function. The reason I call this a period is because the sine function repeats itself. So this section right here from 0 degrees to 2 pi degrees will just keep repeating itself throughout the function. And that's why the sine function is called a periodic function. And the period of the sine function is 2 pi. And we'll see this if we graph the negative side of the function. So let's say we went back to negative pi over 2. Well, that's just 3 pi over 2. And that would be -1. And now I don't even have to find the plots. I know that this is going to repeat itself. So let's see. Hold on. Okay. So already I know how this is going to look exactly just because of the pattern. So that's one of the reasons that sine functions are really easy to graph. Now another thing that we know about the sine function is that it has this thing called an amplitude. The amplitude is the distance from the midline to the peak. The midline in this case is just the x-axis because it's an equidistant from, it's like the equator. So you go up 1 and you go down 1. So the amplitude in this case is 1. So what if I had the function f of x is equal to 2 sine of x? What would that do? Well, let's say I had pi over 2 for x, then 2 times sine of pi over 2, that would be 2 times 1, giving me 2. And the same thing would repeat itself. So let's graph that function right here. 2 sine of x. Well, all I have to do is just change this top value to 2 and the bottom value to -2. And that's how I would graph a vertical stretch of the sine function. Basically, all you have to do is just change the top values. What if you had 1/2 sine of x? Well, this would just become 1/2, and this would be -1/2. So that's a rough idea of how you graph the sine function.